Hello, my name is Dr. Melinda Hill, and thank you so much for joining today. We're going to talk about communication under pressure. How do you find your voice when it matters most? So, you didn't lose your voice, you're not hoarse or anything like that. But sometimes under pressure, you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, you lose your voice. So, how do you find your voice when it matters most? Again, my name is Dr. Melinda C. Hill. I'm a leadership and communication executive coach, and I teach mental fitness. And so, mental fitness helps me all throughout my day as I'm working with leaders or I'm working with young professionals. Mental fitness helps me chill. Melinda Chill. So if you ever want to find me, melindachill.com. And so let's get started. Communication under pressure. So, what is mental fitness? Think of mental fitness as we're here together today. Think of mental fitness like you think of physical fitness. Physical fitness is something that you have to practice, and physical fitness is something that you get good at. And so, mental fitness, it's your capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. And it impacts every aspect of your life. It impacts your relationships, impacts your work, impacts your teammates, your friendships. And so, mental fitness. Let's just try a mental fitness exercise just to get us started. What I like to do, and I do it all throughout the day, is pay attention to my breath. It's free. It never leaves me, but do I pay attention to it? All right, so let's pay attention to our breath. Just pay attention to the rise and fall of your chest. If you want to close your eyes down, go ahead and close your eyes down. I don't know what your day has looked like so far. Just pause and pay attention to your breath. Three full breaths. It's enough to bring you back to center, bring you back to yourself, and prepare for whoever it is that you're going to show up to talk to or to pour into next. And that was mental fitness. How strong is your mind when life gets hard? How can you recover? How quick is your recovery? And that's what we'll be going over today. So, what takes over under pressure? What takes over? Your communication performance is highly influenced by your mental fitness. So, we have these internal pressure patterns: control, pleasing, avoidance, perfectionism, or hypervigilance. And people really aren't difficult. We're just different. And so, what happens when there's a difficult conversation? Let's look at the pressure funnel. This right here is what's happening in real time when pressure hits. We'll talk about communication styles. But when pressure hits, it may feel like it's all about, oh, my communication. I need to learn how to communicate better. But it's really a chain reaction. Let me walk you through the funnel. At the top, you have a moment, a missed conversation, a missed expectation. That's when pressure comes. Your voice is overlooked. Someone didn't take your suggestion. It activates your default warning. This is not your most polished self when someone has ignored you or ignored your expertise. And so what happens if you are dewired? I don't know if you've taken this before. If you are dewired, if you haven't, might be something that you would want to do in your professional life. Because to know yourself is to grow yourself, and to change, it all starts with awareness. So how do you show up? How do you communicate? D's under pressure, they want to take control, and it's I'll just handle it. You have a normal personality, and then you have under pressure. And D, bottom line, it they just want to they want it done. And an I, they like to influence. They like to you're having a party and you want someone to get the party started, and but under pressure, they want to explain more. They may become a little bit more talkative. And an S is steadiness. An S, you want an S on your team because you can depend on an S. But under pressure, an S might withdraw, and they will step back and just say it's not worth it. Let me just make sure I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. That's an S. Now, a C, they're like black and white. They analyze your information you want to see on your team because you want it done right. But under pressure, they may say something. Let's make sure we get this right, and be a little bit more forceful with the getting it right. I need to be right. This needs to be right. If you're representing me, it needs to be right. That's a C. And then I explained that one just a little bit more with a little bit more. Yeah, I'm C wired, so I could put a little bit more oof in that one because I'm just talking about me. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. Okay, so let's pivot to some of the internal drivers that I might introduce you to today. And those internal drivers, here's what's happening underneath the surface. The D is taking control. They don't want to lose control. The S, they might avoid because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And the C, let's get it perfect. And the I, they just want to maybe kind of please everybody. And this is what happens under pressure. When you have a normal communication style, but this is what happens under pressure. So let's keep going. This is, if you are D-wired or C-wired, you're task-oriented. And if you're a D-wired and I-wired, you might be a little bit more outgoing. People-oriented are those who are wired with INS, and more reserved are our C and S wired individuals. So understanding your behavior style is just a difference. Pressure doesn't create character. Pressure just reveals character under pressure. So I'm going to show a video here. Who's in your sandbox? Tell me if any of this has ever happened to you. Who is in your sandbox?
Hard hat.
Oh, hey, hard hat. Bosha came through here with all this sand? Come on. Oh, Chris, a little more moat over this way.
I told you. It's Christine.
Ian, yes, another tower. On the right, no, 2 towers.
Yes, sir.
Dan? Ah, you like my section?
I love it! Love it! And we are so far ahead of schedule. Hello, Dan, go. Yes, sir. Well, it's going great. I've expanded the footprint. I've widened the moat. It'll be ready for water sometime this afternoon. I'll be adding it before you even get here. I've got 2 new towers going on the north side. And, yes, sir. I'd be glad to show you around this afternoon at, okay. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you this afternoon.
I added the towers.
I added the moat. What are we? Chopped liver?
I'm vegan.
Chopped legumes?
Well, I, as in we, us, the team, all of us.
Understanding your own personality can unlock the power of your team. And misevaluating your own personality can restrict the very team you rely upon.
So who's in your sandbox? In the video, all 4 communication styles were represented. And what happened in that moment, it wasn't just about credit. It was about visibility. And so the leader, he's the boss, he in his mind, he may have focused on results, but under pressure, his behavior said, I'm not a more. I'm not a more than the team. And the team didn't just lose credit, they lost their voice. So the real cost when people don't feel seen, they stop contributing. When they don't feel heard, they stop engaging. Why? People don't disengage because they're incapable. They disengage because they are invisible. And so showing up and knowing how you show up under pressure. Why do you give up the driver's seat? I call it the driver's seat sometimes. Who's in control? Under pressure, the D wants to control. They take charge. The I, they get talkative. The S, they're protective. And C, they control through information. So to be understood before being responded to, that's what others need under pressure. So you know how you show up normally, but do you know that if your boss is a D and you are an I, do you know how to flex your communication based on who you are communicating with? So different it isn't that they're difficult. Different people need different things under pressure. And so under pressure, what's really going on behind the scenes? What's happening? Meet your internal critic, the judge. The judge is that internal voice that undermines your leadership and your communication performance. Around my house, we call them the mean girls in the hallway. I have 3 children, and 2 of my college-age children were resident advisors. And so they really know about the mean girls in the hallway. So we talk about the judge. The judge fuels doubt and defensiveness and overreaction. And the judge is what's called the universal saboteur. And it afflicts everyone. It's the one that beats you up repeatedly, over and over. That's why I call them the mean girls. Beats you up over and over and over about your mistakes and warns you obsessively about the future. It's the one who keeps you up in the middle of the night. So if you're in the middle of the night and it's 3 a.m. and you're worrying, you're not in control. Your judge is in the driver's seat. And the reason I call it the mean girls in the hallway is because your judge activates other saboteurs. And that causes much of your stress and your unhappiness. And it reduces your effectiveness and it harms your relationship, not just your relationship with others, but your relationship with yourself. Because if you're critical and harsh with yourself, you can't give what you don't have. So recognizing the judge and the accomplices. We don't need to memorize all of them today. You only need to recognize that some of them are there and they steal your voice. When I first started working with my saboteurs, it was about exactly 4 years ago. And I remember we had gone on a family vacation and wow, my family might be somewhere playing, golf or whatever. I would spend some time in the car working on my mental fitness. And I would literally ask myself, whoa, who in the world has been in the driver's seat? And specifically in the driver's seat as far as like my leadership and my self-leadership in my marriage. Just like, oh, wow, that's not even who I am. That's not me. And so how do your saboteurs, how do they show up? Let's talk a little bit about them. Introduce the controller. Anxiety-based need to be in charge of everything. Not just themselves, but they need to be in charge of other people, their actions, and it has to be their way. Someone might have a hyper-rational saboteur. They have an intense and exclusive focus on rational processing, including relationships, and can be perceived as uncaring, unfeeling, or intellectually arrogant. Does anybody at work come to mind? Let's just keep going. Then you have the victim. The victim is like self-pity and resentment of life and of others, and there's always a constant problem. Everyone is against me. Woe is me. And the avoider, they focus on the positive and the pleasant in an extreme way. And in a situation, they'll walk away, but they'll stay hurt. And they might be S-wired. A pleaser, indirectly, they try to gain the acceptance and affection of others by pleasing and helping, rescuing, or flattering others. I'll just go along so that they like me. A lot of times, that pleasing can run away because you're not using what I like to say is no is a complete sentence. No is my daughter's first word. She sat in the middle of my king size bed. No, my first word. Yeah, my first word was no. It's a complete sentence. And sometimes pleasers might forget that. So our saboteurs, that's what they're called. They are the cause of fear, stress, your guilt, shame, and insecurity. Beloved, it's not you. That's not who you are. Those are your saboteurs. Just take a moment. Which one of those stood out for you? And any of that, like, oh, that might be a little bit. And it's okay, awareness, not judgment. Because if you begin to judge yourself, then that's a saboteur. But awareness and curiosity is like, how is that showing up for me? That switches things over. So saboteurs motivate you through negative emotion, and it costs stress, burnout, relationship strain, and decision fatigue. And so the problem isn't pressure, the problem is our response to pressure. So how do you shift? You have to stop, catch yourself, label, that was my saboteur. I call mine Judge Judy. I'm like, ooh, she's doing a lot today. And then you have to power up. And you power up with what we call PQ reps, and that's mental fitness. And we'll do some mental fitness exercises toward the end. So you stop, you label, you power up. Your power is in your pause. So this is a power pause reframe. So communication under pressure is going to require that you pause the reaction. You have got to lead yourself. You got to stop before you respond. And ask yourself, what's happening? And name that internal emotion or stress response that's driving the behavior in the moment. And you got to choose intentional communication, because if you are I-wired, but who you are communicating with is C-wired, you have to respond with purpose rather than impulse. And that means flexing your style, adopting your approach to match the person that you are communicating with. And you may not have gotten a 32-page disc report on someone else, but if they're on your team and you know how behavior kind of shows up, you may be able to say, yeah, I think they might be, I-wired. So when I'm D-wired, if I go into a meeting with someone who's I-wired, I might want to take the first 90 seconds and say, how was your weekend? Give them an opportunity to talk about themselves. And then let's get to business, because you're D-wired. But you want to meet their need first. And so power pause, it gives you an incredibly valuable choice. So before you react, you pause. And then after the pause, you get to choose how you are going to respond. Then you may have a question. What do I actually say? Okay, so I'll pause. Okay, I feel there's something going on. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to do one of them breaths. Okay. What do I say? That's why I developed. It's a simple framework, and I use it with leaders, teams, coaching clients, and it's called it's a reset. And I have been using this for decades. I teach my children. When I say children like that, they're grown now. But when I say children, because I've been using it for decades, and my background is in counseling. And I used to teach my groups as a counselor. Sometimes conflict is just about communication. So if you can clearly communicate where you are, you can bypass some of that conflict. And so the BIF reset is just a simple way to communicate with clarity under pressure. So what's the B? It isn't about winning an argument. And it's not about getting the last word in. It's about creating conditions for better conversations. You want to create the condition for a better conversation, not about winning the conversation. So when under pressure, your brain, it wants to tell a story. We assume motives. We defend ourselves because we don't want to be wrong. We blame because we don't want to be wrong. But BIF helps us move from reaction back to clarity. Because our first instinct is to react, but we want to pause and get back into clarity. And so B, the B is the bothersome event. So what actually happened? What actually happened? That's the first step. Describe what happened without blame or interpretation. I watch a lot of attorney shows. Just stick to the facts. No emotion to it. Just stick to the facts, not an interpretation, not your assumption, just observable behavior. So instead of saying you ignored me, You might say, you know, yesterday during our meeting, I wasn't acknowledged. Facts, facts reduce defensiveness. And then you want to put in an I statement. The I statement comes, that's what we really, sometimes we want to skip the I statement. You have to own your experience, because I can promise you this, no one got up that morning and said, I want to make Mary feel frustrated. I'm going to frustrate her all day. I want to make Sam feel depleted. Nobody gets up with the goal. But if you don't let someone know how you feel, they won't know how to respond to you in the future. Let them know I felt overlooked, or I felt frustrated, or I felt confused. Notice what you're not saying. You're not saying, you made me feel. You're taking ownership of your experience. And then lastly, you're going to shift the conversation. You're going to shift it forward. So next time, you tell them what you need. Next time, I'd appreciate being given a chance to finish my thought. Or I'd like to have us check in before decisions are finalized. Oh, I appreciate a response within 24 hours. So this way, we're no longer stuck in what happened. We're creating clarity about what needs to happen next. And so when you're trying to communicate with clarity and find your voice, it doesn't eliminate difficult conversations, because difficult conversations are always going to happen. It just gives you a framework to communicate what happened, how it made you feel, and what you need in the future. And a lot of times that I statement, sometimes people may not experience the full rainbow of feelings. I do have a communications toolkit where it teaches you using the feelings wheel. What am I feeling? Because there's more than anger, sadness, mad, or unhappy. There's a whole broad spectrum of emotions. And getting in touch with what made you feel and then communicating that is one really keen step in moving clarity forward and moving relationships forward. And so that's how you move from reaction to relationship. And it's really simple. Communication under pressure isn't about saying the perfect thing. No, it's about becoming the kind of person who can stay present long enough to say the next right thing. So let's practice. Let's try this together. Think of the last time you lost your voice. You don't have to share it with anyone. Just think about it. If you want to write it down, even before I call customer service somewhere, I write this out and I have it written down, because I don't want to get lost in, oh, you didn't do this, or you didn't do this, and I'm the nope, it's already written. And sometimes I have to continually say it over and over. And don't get caught up in the story. Stay with the facts. Go ahead. Think about an event where you may have lost your voice. What did you actually observe? What did you genuinely feel? And what would you like to have happen in the future, moving forward? Do you need more time? Come back to this later. If you need to have a conversation with someone, definitely come back to this later. And what I like to do is I like 25 words or less. 25 words or less. I'm partially DY, but this is where I like to bottom line it. Let's bottom line it, because you don't want a story. You want to just say, when you didn't acknowledge me in the meeting, I felt that was disrespectful. You know, in the future, if I raise my hand, please acknowledge me. Also, in the communication toolkit, I talk about relationships. If you're not feeling seen or heard in your relationship, you can argue about it all day. However, your partner, do they wake up every day and say, I'm going to make her feel neglected? No. But if you say, when you spend so much time watching ESPN, you know, I feel neglected. In the future, what would it look like if we took 2 hours on the weekend and just spent those solid 2 hours together? That's what I. It's that simple. So most difficult conversations become much less difficult once we stop trying to prove that we're right. It can be exhausting to get somebody to come to our side. Once we stop trying to prove that we're right, we can start communicating with clarity. It could be something that you like, oh, wow, I really do need to communicate that. Simple, BIF. So is pain a feeling an emotion, a negative emotion? Is it good for you? It's like putting your hand on a hot stove. It's good for, oh, I almost burn myself every time I cook. I don't know why, but yeah, even getting stuff out the air fryer, just burned myself the other day. But I have an ionizer who, you know, my water, just put it on there. I'm never in pain. So I burn myself, use my ionizer. I'm good. But it's pain good. You know, if you put your hand on a hot stove, it's only going to be good for, oh my. And that's the same way. Your feelings aren't the problem, staying stuck. No one would stay stuck on a hot stove. Staying stuck is the problem. So, how do you switch? Okay, so if you're over here, you are upset, you're overwhelmed, and you're stressed. This is your left brain. You need to stop the saboteur. Come right here to center, do some mental fitness exercises, and I'm going to take you through a couple. These are my favorite. We already did the breath. That's one mental fitness exercise. Now, if I'm in a meeting, no one knows that 80% of my attention is in the meeting, but 20% of my attention is on my breath to keep me grounded. Okay, that's one. Now let's do another. This is my next favorite. Take 2 fingers. Take your index finger and your thumb and put them together and rub them with the intensity that you can feel the fingertip ridges. Okay, so if you're in a meeting, hand under the desk, no one knows that you are doing a PQ rep, practicing mental fitness. You want to be in your body, you're listening, you're 80% here in the meeting, but then you're 20% in your body so that you are not up here with all the chatter. No one can see that I am practicing mental fitness. So you have your breath, you have your fingertips, and another one. No one will ever know. All 10 toes. Wiggle all your toes and try to feel all of your toes. With your shoes on, just wiggle your toes. So if you are grounded in your body, your mind is not living rent free. Wiggle your toes. You're grounded in your body. So you're stopped when you know that you're upset, your hands on the hot stove. Oops, that's my judge. Take it off and do some 10-second PQ reps. And what you're doing, you're switching to another region of your brain. So you're a sage. You have saboteur and then you have a sage. Your sage lives in a different region where you have positive emotions. There's peace and calm. There's clear-headed focus. There's creativity. There's big picture thinking. Now take, for instance, if you've just left one meeting and you need to go into another meeting, but that meeting was overwhelming, stop. Even when you're walking to another meeting, if you can walk and really feel your feet hitting the pavement, breathing as you're going to your next meeting, you're creating space to go from the left brain overwhelm to the right brain where you are in sage. And when you are in sage, your creativity, your big picture thinking, your peace and calm, whoever is meeting with you next after a contentious meeting or overwhelming meeting, they deserve your best self. And that's how you pause. Your power is in your pause. So your sage, operate from the sage perspective. Now this research focused found that individuals with higher mental fitness, they demonstrate better performance under pressure. It was done with hundreds of CEOs, Stanford students, world-class athletes, and over 500,000 participants in 50 different countries. Now, research is summarized by Stanford professor Shazad Shaman in Positive Intelligence. After a minimum threshold of technical competence is met, the biggest differentiator in performance is not intelligence. It's mental fitness. How fast can you recover from an upset? And it's just like physical fitness. Success requires intense practice initially. 15 minutes a day for 6 to 8 weeks, because what you practice daily is who you become under pressure. Just like you go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, or if you're like me, I like to stay home and listen to YouTube videos and dance around on my rebounder because I just like being at home. But it requires working out. I'm in like the middle stage of my life and I can't just sit. I have to work out. And it's the same with mental fitness. You got to work it out. And so it requires some intense practice. And what you're actually doing is neuroscience. You're rewiring your brain. You're over here, sometimes left brain, and then you're getting over here so that you can respond more often, right brain. So what I want to offer is a 5-step process. Communication under pressure. It's a proven process just to help you communicate clearly when it matters. And so everything that we went through today, download. It's a free starter guide, and you'll receive what's driving your reactions under pressure. How do you shift that reaction and communicate clearly when it matters most? And it all starts with awareness. If you're going to communicate clearly, it starts with awareness of what's going on in yourself first. And in order to be seen and be heard, to communicate with clarity, you gotta know, okay, I am hijacked. My saboteurs have hijacked. Okay, I'm gonna stop. You gotta understand what's driving you under pressure. And it's not always visible. Those saboteurs are just not always visible. So you want to uncover what's going on. So the difference is having some space between the reaction. And that's what most people never really access under pressure. And that's why some people don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they lose their voice because they lose their presence. And so when you learn to pause, you don't just change the conversation, you change how you show up in the conversation. And so if you're ready to transition and get tools, how to operate under pressure, I have a BIF reset toolkit. And it's going to give you some scripts because I'm a script kind of person. I need help with what I need to say and what I need to do. And also you'll be able to take the free saboteur assessment. And thank you. Thank you for spending some time with me today and learning how to pause because your power, it's in the pause. And I'm here to help you grow, and I'm here to walk alongside you. The pause is where your perception shifts and your connection is restored, and you show up with your best self, with your full voice. So thank you. Again, my name is Melinda Hill, Dr. Melinda Chill. You can find me at melindachill.com, helping you move from stress and overwhelm to chill. Thank you for your time today.